Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be my June reading wrap up and my July reading wrap up. So if you did not watch, I think it was my August TBR, I explained that I am just going to be combining June and July's reading wrap ups together because when I got back from London right at the beginning of July, I got sick. So I just didn't have time to film it. And then I was kind of like, why would I post it in like mid-July? So I just decided to combine them into one video. So that is what today's video is going to be. I read 8 books in June and then I read 4 books in July. I unfortunately hit a bit of a reading slump at the end of this month, and so I didn't read as much as I was hoping to. Um, and I also went on a trip, so I visited my siblings, so I was doing other things with them instead of just reading. Um, but I'm starting to get out of my reading slump, which is good. The reason I got into a reading slump was because I read a book that was so good, and like I was just like, I don't want to read anything right now. Like I'm just thinking about that book, which we'll get to at the end of the video. But yeah, that's what today's video is going to be, and I hope that you guys enjoy. Okay, so quickly before we get into the video, I just wanted to let you all know that I have a reading journal that you can purchase on Amazon. So I was probably like 30 pages like left of my reading journal that I currently have. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna need to get a new one soon. And like I was looking for one, and a lot of them were like really either, I don't know what the right word is, like I don't want to say intense, but they had like a lot going on. And then there were some that I felt like had so many things you would fill out that I just don't need. Like I just wanted a simpler reading journal. And so I thought it would be kind of cool. I like reading, and I, have journals that I keep down what I read, so I decided it would be kind of cool if I created my own. And so this is the journal that I created. So this is what the front cover looks like. The spine is blue, and then this is what the back looks like. So this is how the inside looks. So you have a place where you would put the book title, author, and then there are the 5 stars for your ratings. And then you could, there's multiple ways you could do it. You could circle, you could fill in, however you want to do it is how you could do it. And then there is a little section for notes and or reviews. I usually don't write a lot in my notes or reviews. If I'm going to write like a review, I usually will do it on Goodreads or Amazon. So that's why I just personally don't need as much space. And I like to just kind of quickly jot down like just, how I'm feeling in the moment. I don't need like a ton of space. So that's why I created this. There are, if I remember correctly, yes, so each journal has 120 pages that you can write on. So each journal will hold 120 books that you read. Currently it is only in this blue color. I have not been able to figure out a way to like have you be able to like pick the color that this would be. So if you guys want more colors, like you like the design but you want like instead of blue you want like purple or green or pink or something, you can comment those down below and I can try to just publish the same thing but in multiple different colors instead. But like I said, this is now on Amazon. If you do purchase, I do make some of that money instead of it all just going to Amazon. But I just decided that I would share this with you guys since it is available to purchase. And if you guys like simple things like I do, I think this is a great reading journal for that. And if not, no big deal. But I just wanted to let you guys all know. And if you do want to buy, I will have the link in the description below. Okay, so we are officially starting with my June reading wrap up of the video. So the first book that I read and then finished in June was Some Kind of Perfect by Krista Mbekarichi. So literally the beginning of June feels like years ago. I literally feel like it's been so long since I finished the series. But it's only been like a month and a half, 2 months, which like is crazy because wow, time has flown. But this is the last book in the Addicted Callaway Sister series, and I rated this a 5. It was either a 4.75 or 5. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was one of those two. And I just like, I loved this book. It was so good. It was a great way to wrap up all the characters, their storylines, and like their families and everything. And then, I don't know, it was just cool to kind of see like you've watched these like you just watch them grow up. I mean, you didn't necessarily start from when they were kids, but you get flashbacks to when they're kids, and you watch them through like college up into like full on adulthood and like them having their own kids. So this was just a really nice way to end it. Obviously, it is extremely long, but, and maybe this is a controversial opinion, I don't feel like it was too long though. Like, I mean, sure, there are probably scenes that we could have cut out, but like, I wasn't reading and going, we don't need this. Why is this in here? When is this book gonna end? So for me, I thought that it was really, really good. And the last chapter is in Lo's perspective, who is the main character in the Addicted books of the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. And his little like ending, and it broke me. I hadn't cried the whole entire book, but I got to the end and I read the like maybe last page and a half and I was just sobbing. I was like, what? Whoa, like I thought I was gonna make it through. Nope, I don't know. It's just like the way that it wraps up is so like final, and like, and that was our, like, that's our story, and like that's it. And it almost makes it seem like even though their kids have stories too, it's like this is the last you're gonna hear from us. Like, I don't know, it just was like, you read 10 books and I mean, it's an emotional roller coaster. You get attached to the characters. So I was just really, really happy that I finally got to finish the series, and I absolutely loved it, you know, if you can't tell by all the books on my shelves. And I cannot wait to keep reading Krista and Becca Ritchie's writing. So okay, so the second book that I read in June was The Right Move by Liz Tomforde, or Liz Tomforde. I have heard people say both. I don't know which one's right, so if you know, please let me know in the comments down below. But this is the second book in the Windy City series, and let me tell you guys, so great. I know that I had it on so many TBRs and I just kept not picking it up, but I finally did, and I rated it 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. Ryan and Indy are so adorable. And okay, it's a little bit of a spoiler, so if you haven't read it, you might want to skip ahead like 10 seconds or so. But the fact that he learned sign language for her family was absolutely insane for me. Like, I love that man. Oh my god. The storyline was a little predictable, obviously, because it's a very specific trope that I've read multiple times. But I like it, so I'm gonna keep reading it, and I just think the characters themselves really helped make it not feel so like, oh, I've already read this. But yes, second book in June was The Right Move, and I absolutely loved it. So okay, so for the third book that I read in June, I read If Only I Had Told Her by Laura Nolan. Oh, let me tell you, the month was going so good. I read Some Kind of Perfect and The Right Move, and they were like 5 stars, and it was great. And then I picked this book up. Now, I'm not usually someone who dislikes books. Almost every book I read, I'm not gonna lie, usually somewhere between 3.5 and 5. If it's any lower than 3.5, usually there was something either very specific about the book I didn't like the trope, or something happens, or it like really was just bad. I rated this 3 stars. I'm gonna explain so you're not like, okay, why was it so bad? I felt like the book should have just been a novella. If you've read the first book, there are 2 main characters, the female and the male character, and the female is basically the person that we're reading through point of view wise in the first book. And then I thought the way it kind of seemed marketed was that this entire book was going to be the male's perspective. And the male's perspective ended about, let's see here. Yeah, it was this much of that was the male's perspective. So I feel like it could have just been a novella. The rest of the chapters after that kind of feel like we already knew in the first book, or just kind of felt pointless to me, like I didn't really need it. And then they could have just had like a chapter or 2 at the end with the female's point of view, because there is like a little bit of like a time jump at the end. I feel like that would have been all I needed. It felt kind of just like a waste of time for me and a waste of money. Personally, how excited I was with all of the marketing and everything, I was disappointed. However, I will say, if you are fine with you know, knowing that there's going to be multiple different people's point of views throughout the book, not just Finney's, and you understand that Finney's is literally like that big, then I think you should still read it. And if you already have it, I still think you should give it a chance, because like maybe you'll like it. Obviously everyone's opinions are different, but for me this was a huge letdown, and I just, like I said, I feel like it could have been a novella. It didn't need to be a whole book. All right, so next book I read in June did get better. I finally read Caraval by Stephanie Garber. So this is another book that I've had on a TBR many times and have been wanting to read it, and I finally did. I know that this book is a little bit more YA than new adult when it comes to like the romance and the smut and everything. So I was very aware of that going in, so I was not expecting, you know, like, you know, trying to think of a good example. Like, I wasn't expecting like this level of smut that would be going on in this book. So I felt like I went in with a very good mindset. And I actually really did like it. I rated it a 4 stars. I thought, you know, it was a fun idea for a book. It was unique. I've never really read something like it before. And I think that the author did a really good job with kind of leading you through the like maze almost, the same way that the character is going through it. And the only thing I didn't like was that it is in third person, which I did know before reading it. I just didn't know before buying it. So if I would have known it before buying it, I might not have ever bought it. Maybe like on Kindle, but I probably would never have bought the physical copy until I either read it on Kindle or I just might not have read it at all. But like I said, I enjoyed it. It was a 4 stars. I thought that the two like kind of main characters, Scarlett and, right, Scarlett? Isn't Scarlett? Now I'm like, oh no. Hold on. Okay, so the main characters are Scarlett and I think Julian. I can't really remember. I'm gonna be honest, I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it's Scarlett and Julian. And I really liked them. I thought that they were very interesting and complex characters. Like I said, it was a good time. So of course I was like, oh, great time, and it kind of leaves you on a little bit of a cliffhanger. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to the second book. So then I picked up Legendary, and I was like, cool, gonna read it. It's gonna be a great time. Oh God, do I hate Stella. So Stella is Scarlett's sister, and Stella is the person's point of view that you're getting in Legendary, and I think also in Finale. I absolutely hate her. I'm sorry, she was so boring to read, and I just like could not get into it. So I did DNF this book like 100 to 150 pages in. Maybe one day I'll go back, I don't know, but, or Tella, is her name Tella? I don't know, something like that. Like, I really don't remember, I'm gonna be honest. I might go back, I probably won't, but I gave it a shot. It wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but I would still say if you're someone who has been wanting to read this book, I still think you should give it a try for yourself, because everyone's different, and I don't want to necessarily just say, oh, I didn't like this book, don't read it. Like, unless there's something inherently wrong with a book, I'm probably never going to say don't read it. I'm just letting you know I didn't like it. And so if you tend to align with how I feel about books, then maybe steer away from it, but still give it a shot if you want to. But this is actually the first book that I've DNF'd this year, which is kind of crazy because that was in June. That's literally halfway. So only one DNF so far this year is not bad. But I was sad that I had to DNF it. I just like literally was like, I'm gonna put myself in a reading slump if I try to force myself to read this, and I did not want to do that. So I did DNF Legendary. Okay, so after reading Caraval and then DNFing Legendary, I was like, I need a good book to read. Like, I'm kind of a little sad. Like, I was hoping for, like, to love that series, and I was like, I don't know what to read. And I had actually just at around that time been sent an ARC by Love Notes PR for a book that I had requested an ARC of, and that was Loved by You by Anna Lamore. So if you've seen probably any of my videos in the last month or so, you might have seen this book either on my shelf or I might have talked about it, or if you follow me on like Instagram or TikTok, I also probably talked about it. It is one of my new favorite books. This is the author's first book that she's written, and I think she did an absolutely fantastic job. I rated it a 4.5 stars. I feel like the characters, even though some of them you meet very quickly, and I feel like you didn't get as much like character like information, like, okay, hold on. Like, you don't get as much like description on really who the character is. You really learn throughout the book as they're together who they are as people. And it was, you know, kind of a brother's best friend situation. The brother wasn't super involved, so I didn't get as much of that feeling as I do in like other brother's best friends books, but they're also kind of like friends to lovers, and it's single parent, and single parent has really become one of my new favorite tropes. I think that I just love when someone has a kid and they're like, I'm sorry, like I can't put you first because I have a kid and I have to put them first. And that person is like, I don't want you to put me first. I want you to put your kid first, but I'm still here for you. And like, I love you and I love your kid and I'm gonna do anything I can for you guys. Like, that is just so, like, someone choosing to be in your life and choosing to be a part of your family is just, I think, one of the most amazing things to read in a romance book. And I feel like this author did a really, really good job with it. The two main characters are Jack and Rhea has 2 kids, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. I think their names are Lexi and Elle. Yeah, Lexi and Elle. Sorry, I don't know. I think so. I'm pretty sure it's Jack and Rhea, and then Rhea's kids are are Lexi and Elle. But like I said, him as not actually their dad, but, you know, being a father figure to those girls was one of the most heartwarming things to read. And I loved these characters. And as I was reading, there were other characters you're seeing, and I'm like, oh, they better be getting books, and they are. So I'm very, very excited for this to be an interconnected standalone series. The second book actually just had its title and cover release, so that's super exciting. So yeah, I definitely recommend, if you have not read this book yet, to read it. Okay, so the next book that I read in June was Caught Up by Liz Tomforde, or Liz Tomforde. Yes, I could not I was like, I could not stop thinking about how The Right Move ended and how much I wanted to get to know this character. So it's Kai and Miller, those are the 2 main characters. And Kai is a single dad, like a single parent to his son. And so of course I had just finished the book that I just was talking about, Loved by You, and that was the single parent trope. And then this one was single parent trope, and I was like, you know what? I'm in the mood for it, why not? And let me tell you, I don't know what it is. Like, okay, Liz has the Windy City series, which is currently 4 books. Mile High is the first book. It was okay. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I know some people who like hate it, but I didn't hate it. I just didn't love it. But I literally loved The Right Move and Caught Up. I've rated both 5 stars. I think they were absolutely amazing. So if you don't like the Windy City series because you read the first book, please read the second one, because she figured it out. She maybe was missing something in the first book, but she figured it out by the second, and so on. So I absolutely loved it. I think that the way that the characters meet is really interesting, because they don't really know who each other are, even though they're literally also then about to meet as... I don't want to spoil it, so I feel like I'm just gonna shut up about that part. I'm trying to remember what the kid's name is. Max? Jack? Max. No, Jack was... Jake? No. Max. I think it's Max. Hold on. Okay, so it is Max. I'm really bad at names, if you cannot tell, and like remembering them for books. Guys, okay, again, gonna be a slight spoiler here, so if you have not read this book and you don't want a slight spoiler, skip ahead a little bit. When Max started mumbling and was kind of saying like ma, like couldn't fully get a word out. I mean from the beginning of the book, when they first met and how attached Max got to her immediately, I knew there was going to be a scene where he called her mama, and it was going to be like, oh, I'm not your mama, oh my god, or like, oh my god, I want to be your mama, like something like that. And when it happened, where it was like 3 chapters in a row of Max trying to say mama but couldn't get it out, and then finally it came out, and they were both like, oh my god. I mean, like, I broke. I was like, I knew it. I love it. And even though I predicted it, it was still just so well done that I didn't care. But yeah, I love this book. I rated it a 5 stars, and I definitely think you should give the Windy City series a try if you have not. Alright, so the next book that I finished in June, I actually started in May, and it is one of the books that I've been listening to on Audible. So I have started at the beginning of this year listening to the Zodiac Academy series. So I finally finished Heartless Sky, which was the 7th book of the series, you can see how huge this book is. Like, excuse me? Hello? Hello? That book is huge. Reading it on Audible was so much less scary than reading this. That's why I read it on Audible. I'm sorry. I don't think I could pick a book this big up and like actually read it. Like, I'm looking at it right now and I feel like it would just scare me. So that's part of the reason. But I rated it a 4.75. I feel like out of all of the books so far, I think this one was the best, which is ironic because it's the Scorpio cover and I'm a Scorpio, so it was meant to be. But I just feel like it had all of the kind of, sorry, it's like hard to hold. I feel like it had all the moments that you were kind of like building up to, and then the ending was like, what the fuck did I just read? And so I had to start the 8th one, even though I was already planning on picking it up as the next audiobook. It was just like an immediate, like sometimes I'll take a little break from an audiobook. No, I immediately had to start listening to it. And the 8th book is about the same size as this, so that'll still probably take me another month or 2 months. Because I finished this towards the end of June and I started it at the beginning of May. So sometimes audiobooks take me not long to finish and sometimes they take me a long time to finish. It just kind of depends on my mood and what I've been doing through those months. But anyways, 4.75 was a great book, was also very sad and just stressful, very stressful at times. But I would recommend, if you like fantasy or romantasy and you also kind of like drama in it, and you like the kind of like school setting and magic and things like that, I definitely think you'll like this series. I just think it's such a fun series. Like, I don't care about really the writing of a book. Like, if you're someone who's so like, I need the writing to be like beautiful and perfect, then maybe don't read it. But I'm just not that type of person. If I'm having a good time reading a book, that's what matters for me. And so I have a great time reading these books. So I definitely recommend this series. But like I said, this was the 7th. Oh my god, was this the 7th? Oh, how fitting. It's the 7th book I read in June. Oh, wait, I kind of love that. Okay, on to my last book. Alright, so the last book that I read in June was Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. So I also finally got to this. I've had this on my shelf for a few months now. I got it for Christmas, if I remember correctly, but I have been wanting to read it for a while, like even before I had the physical copy. But I'm gonna be honest, I was a little disappointed. It wasn't a bad book. I rated it 4 stars. It's not that the book was bad. I was just disappointed because like people I knew were rating it 5 stars and like loved it and were raving about it and wanting me to read it. And I just kind of was like, yeah, it was okay. I mean, like, there were parts that were more interesting than other parts. I just don't think I loved the storyline that much. I don't want to get too much into it because I feel like it'll be spoilers, but you have the 3 characters, kind of, that it's a little love triangle, and I'm not a huge love triangle person, but everyone was saying, like, it was so well done and it didn't matter, but it still kind of mattered to me. And I hated the one dude. He was absolutely horrible. What's his name? Hold on. Let me find out. Was his name Chase? Oh, wait, hold on. I think it was Chase. Now I'm like second guessing myself. Was it not? I think his name was Chase. I hated him. I did not like him. No. Please just never show up in a book again. But yeah, overall the book was still fine. I enjoyed it. It was a 4 stars. Maybe a 3.75 now that I really think about it, but I think I rated it a 4 stars at the time. It was a fine book. If you are still wanting to read it, I would still say give it a try. I don't think there's anything wrong with the book, like, necessarily. It just wasn't necessarily like my top read of the year or anything. So yeah, this is the last book that I read in June. Okay, so now we are going into the books that I read in July, and like I said, I read 4 because of the reading slump that I went into, but we will get into that a little bit later into the video. But the first book that I read was Twisted by Emily McIntyre. So I don't know how I have not finished this series yet. I have had all of the books, basically, like, they come out and I buy them. So, like, I don't know why I have not read them. Like, finished the series, I mean. But I really liked Hooked, which is the first one. Scarred, which is the second one, was okay. I mean, it wasn't like bad, but it wasn't my favorite. And then Wretched, which is the third one, I did also really like. Twisted, I'm not gonna lie, also disappointed me. So I guess with the pattern that we're going through, maybe I'll like Crossed, which is the fifth one. But yeah, I didn't totally love this one. I felt like there were certain parts that were a bit rushed and some character like bonding that felt a bit rushed too. It was supposed to kind of be like an enemies to lovers feel, and it didn't really give me that for that long. I rated it a 3.5, I think. It wasn't bad, it just was not my favorite in the series, and it was not a favorite book that I've read like recently. So this one is basically Jasmine and Jafar as the two main characters, but obviously because it's a kind of fractured fairy tale situation, the names are slightly different, so it's Yasmin and Julian. But I don't know. It wasn't bad. I just definitely think it's my least favorite out of the series. I guess I was just disappointed because I was like, okay, I'm getting back in the series, and I was really excited, and then this kind of just disappointed me. But like I said, you know, it's hard. You're not gonna like every book in a series, whether it's interconnected or not. Like, not every book's gonna be your favorite. So even though it does like make me sad that this one wasn't super well liked by me, it is what it is. I can't help it. But yeah, Twisted was a 3.5 stars. Alright, so the next book that I read in July was Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. So ironically, the main characters are Julian, which I didn't realize that until I started reading, and I was like, oh my god, wait, the male is Julian again. We like this Julian a lot more though. But Julian and Dahlia are the two main characters, and I think you meet Dahlia? No, is it Julian? Frick. I know you meet one of them in Final Offer by Lauren Asher, because this is kind of a spin-off series of the Dreamland Billionaire series, but now I can't remember which one you actually meet. I forget books so easily, but this is the first book in the Lakefront Billionaire series, and the second book came out recently, so I was like, girl, you need to read the first one so I can read the second one, because I know I'm gonna love the second one. Like, I already feel the 5-star rating coming. Like, I can feel it radiating off my shelf. But I really did like this one. This one was a 4.25 for me. There were some nice scenes between them that made me giggle and blush and things, which I always appreciate. It is a smaller town romance, which I'm not usually a big fan of, but I love Lauren Asher and I love her writing, so I'm willing to kind of pretend that that's not there. And I feel like she writes it well enough that it doesn't feel so small town. Like, it's really the small towns where they're also like cowboys. I'm just not a fan of that. So I really do like the way she writes it. And I just feel like them not building a house, flipping a house is more accurate, was such a cute idea to have that forced proximity together. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, okay. So the next book in the series is Julian's cousin or brother. I think it's his cousin, but they were raised like brothers, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I'm super excited to read Love Unwritten. I have not read it yet, but I do hope to read it soon. But I finally am almost done with every book that Lauren Asher has ever written, because I own them all. I just have not read them all. I have one book left, so like I said, I rated this one 4.25 stars. Okay, so the next book that I read in July was Their Vicious Darling. So if you guys haven't watched kind of from the beginning, you may not know necessarily about this series, but this is the third book in the, I always forget the series name, Vicious Lost Boys series. So this is like a Peter Pan Wendy retelling, but like all the characters are aged up to be 18 or older, so it's also a very dark romance. Like, let me tell you, this entire series, if you want just to be reading basically pure smut for every chapter, I would highly recommend the series. The first book it really does just feel like smut every other chapter. But there is a plot line that starts to develop throughout the end of the first, into the second, and through the third, and I'm assuming then the fourth will still feel like that. But there's still definitely a lot of smut that goes on in this book. But I just was like, okay, I read the first two. I have the last two on my shelf. Just, you know, it's a quick, easy read. It took me one day to read. So I was like, I'll just pick it up and read it. I rated it a 3 stars. Yeah, 3 stars, I think. Maybe 3.25. I'm not exactly sure. Again, I'm really bad at remembering things. It was okay. This series has not ever been like, oh my god, this was the best book I ever read. I definitely think the second book had a bit more plot that I liked than this one. But it's also just kind of like a quick and easy like refresh. And if you're feeling like, oh, I want a dark romance, but you don't want to read like a super long one, it's a short dark romance. It was just kind of, you know, trying to mix up the genres for the month. So that's why I picked this one up. But like I said, 3 to 3.25 stars is about what I'd rate this book. Okay, so the last book I read in July is what actually put me in my reading slump because it was just so good and I just like, I don't know, I just needed time to think about the book. Sometimes you just read such a good book that you just can't like start reading another one and like you need time to process it. And that was Dishonestly Yours by Krista and Becca Ritchie. So this is the first book in the Webs We Weave series, which is their new book series. And as you guys can see, I did annotate it. So I tabbed and let me see if I can, yeah. And I highlighted and like annotated in it. So this book I rated a 4.5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I think that the plot line was so unique. They are con artists. I've never read a book where like the characters are con artists and they're like kind of trying to like leave that life, but like how hard it is to really get away from that when you've been lying your whole life. And so I just really think that the plot line was interesting as well as the characters themselves. And like I said, it's a series, so like reading the first book of a new series, and I don't know how many books it'll be. I don't know, it's just exciting because you start to see some plots thickening, you know. But I also just really enjoyed the romance between the two characters in this book, which were Rocky and Phoebe. I feel like it was such a we both know we're in love with each other thing, but we're not gonna admit it, and then we admit it, and then it's like, yeah, but we still can't be together, and you're banging your head in the wall like, why can't you just, I don't know, be an adult and say, actually we can, fuck who's saying we can't. But you know, so there were definitely parts that like I was like reading the book and I was like, but sometimes I like having that in the book because it makes it more realistic because people are flawed and no one's gonna be perfect with their communication. But like I said, I rated this a 4.5 stars and it definitely put me in a reading slump after, because I just like I needed time to process it. And I know that they just recently, I think it was the title release for the second one. So that's exciting because if you already got the title, that probably means the book's probably in editing already, which I'm really excited about because, like I said, oh, it was so good and I loved it. And if you see back here, I have another copy. That's my signed copy, but I annotated in my non-signed copy because I was like, I don't want to mess it up. But yeah, absolutely loved it. I would highly recommend if you've read any of Krista and Recchi. Oh no, I am so sorry, guys. Krista and Becca Ritchie's books. I think you will love this. I know this is going to sound controversial, but so far I liked this first book better than I liked the first book in the Addicted series. I'm not saying that I like the series better than that series. I'm just saying the first book was better than Addicted to You. That's all I'm saying. But I highly recommend. I really liked it. Okay guys, so that was my video for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed, and if you did, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys can comment down below any video ideas that you guys have or want to see me do. Not exactly sure which video I have planned to be posted next after this video is posted, but I do have some videos that I'm hopefully going to be able to get out before I move into my apartment. But yeah, this was my June and July reading wrap up. Like I said, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you are all having a great day, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!